Hi, I'm Rebecca, and welcome to my sewing room. This is So Be It. Today, or this week, I am working on a Butterick pattern, which I don't do a lot of Butterick. I don't know why, I just don't. It's Butterick B6448. This is the pattern I am using for my Easter dress this year. I'm doing views C. They're all the same style, with the exception that B has a contrast top and C just has added sleeves. The bodice and the skirt shape is all the same. My video is going to be a little bit different this week. I actually already have the mock-up made and I am currently wearing it because I will be doing some fitting work on it before I make the actual dress. It's kind of hard to see, but I have the apex marked and the center, I think it's the center front. I have a lengthen and shorten line. The waistline is marked on there. And hopefully we'll be able to actually see it on camera because I have to narrow the shoulders. As you can see, the seams are way down. So I need to bring those up here. So that's probably actually about an inch adjustment there. And I'm high-waisted. It turns out so for Christmas, I asked for a few sewing books and my husband was able to find one. So I got the fitting book, Make Sewing Pattern Alterations and Achieve the Perfect Fit. And then recently at Barnes & Noble, I found the other complete photo guide to perfect fitting that I had on my list. I think these were the two fitting books that I had on my list. So actually, according to this one, I have a petite frame. I have a high waist and narrower shoulders. And it turns out that's the same for just about every standard sewing pattern that I've been making. So I will be using the tips in both of those books and kind of showing you the way to adjust the shoulders, which includes a sleeve adjustment, because one of the ways, and it seems like it's the easier way, at least for me to understand, will make my armhole bigger, and so the sleeve has to adjust too. But I kind of wanted to adjust the sleeve anyways because it is a little bit tight. So I was already going to, like, when I do this, the back of my dress isn't tight. So when I do this, as you can see, it pulls on my arms. And I'd rather it not do that because this is a muslin cotton, but the dress is actually going to be made out of a satin with an embroidered mesh over it, which I will show you once we get the fitting done. So I was already going to adjust the sleeves anyways, so a couple adjustments on the sleeves shouldn't make too much of a difference, and we'll see that. I also have to, and I've never done this, I have to shorten the waist. I've needed to do it before, but I've never really had the guts to do it, nor the desire to put in the work. But since this is my Easter dress this year, I really want this dress to fit really well and fit for a long time. So we are taking the time and actually fitting it this time. So that is the introduction to what I am doing. When I was doing the mock-up, it's a pretty simple dress to make. The bodice is lined though, and I didn't line this because right now this is about the body of what the bodice is going to be. My dog's outside barking and it's bothering me. I think she's barking at the wind because it's a really windy day today. Let me figure out what I really need to do for these sleeves. I need to reread my directions and then I will be back to explain how to shorten or how to adjust the sleeves. Okay, so according to my fitting book, the first step I need to do is make the, what is it called? I have to pin the shoulder seams at the lower point of the shoulder, which is like where your bone for your shoulder joint is at. Where you can feel that's about where your shoulder seam should actually land on your garments. There's two different versions in this book of how to adjust the shoulders. One of them actually changes the slope of the seam, so it angles it down. I don't need to do that. The slope of this is actually just fine the way it is. So I will be doing that. Is actually why I will be doing the adjustment too, but before or the option too. But before I actually chose that, I did originally think I was going to do it anyways, because I already am going to alter the sleeve. And the option 2 requires altering the sleeve. So the first step is to pin the lower point of the shoulder on the garment before we do anything with the pattern pieces. I'm actually going to do all of the fitting that I plan to on my toile, I think is what it's called, before I do any pattern adjustments on the pattern paper itself. And then we'll go over that and how I do each of those based on what needs to be changed. So we want to make sure that we pin the front and the back of our shoulder seam, because we have to take it in the same amount in the front and the back. But pretty much we should just be able to do it up here. I'll probably pin a little bit here because that's going to have to be taken in as well. So it says to use, my seam's not particularly perfectly flat, but that's okay. So it says to not get the sleeve into where you're pinning. So I'm going to do my best to leave the sleeve out of my pinning. I think it wants to keep sliding. I think I'm going to have to do the left side first. That's what it is. That's at the point. So now I need to bring this forward also. looks like I will be doing this for the entire seam of the sleeve here. Ooh. But look at the lines that that's creating. I wonder how that's going to change. Actually, that might be exactly what I need, because so this pattern has the different bust pieces for cup size, and I went with my cup size and it was a little bit big, but that actually might be what I need to fit this so that it's correct. I guess we'll keep pinning and see how we go. Now I have to do the same thing back. It's gonna be much harder. I'm gonna have to take it off and do it and then put it back on. So let's go ahead and do this side. I know that's not how you're supposed to fit it, but that's okay. I think I am gonna have to do that whole seam there. Let me double check my book too. Ooh, because it's not laying right now. Okay, so I will be stopping the video so I can pin the back, but I'm taking this off and I'm not doing it on camera. So when I come back, the back of the sleeves will also be pinned. Okay, so I have my shoulders pinned. I'm hoping that these pull lines are just because of the way it's pinned and it won't actually pull and gape like this once I have it actually cut and then restitched the way it's supposed to be. But the back doesn't really look too bad. It's pulling a little bit, but that's I still have to adjust the sleeves, but that has to be done on the pattern pieces itself because I have to measure them, and then I have to measure the armhole and the sleeve cap or whatever. It's not, I don't know that it's called a sleeve cap for this kind of sleeve, but I have to measure those and then adjust the sleeve based on how the measurement of the arms I changed, and then add size that way. And then I'm also going to add, I'm going to make it a little bit wider anyways, so that I've got that space that I want here. Now, my next adjustment that I have to do anyways is, I don't think the bust is going to change this adjustment much because it's just up here. So let me change my view, your view. So unfortunately, it is kind of hard for you to see. There is a line, one of those light blue lines, there we go, right here, and that is the length and shorten line on this dress. These bullseyes, and I have a few spots somewhere drawn around in a few areas of where the actual waistline is. I can't quite see it. But my natural waistline is up higher. So I need to shorten the waist as well. So based on what I've been reading for raising the waist of the dress, I just fold this at that lengthen and shorten line here as much as I need to bring the waistline line up to my waist, and do that all the way around the dress itself. So if I use these, that right there is my natural waist. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin here. And then I basically have to continue doing that all the way around, but keeping it pretty much in the same spot, or the same measurement here. So let's see what my measurement is. One, two, three, 4, 5/8, double 5/8, that's 1 1/4 inches. So I'm raising my waistline 1 1/4 inches, but doing it at 5/8 intervals here. And so it'll bring it up like this. So I will go ahead and pin this up, and I'm going to do that off camera, and then I will be back once that's finished. So here we are, everything pinned up. I've not seen the back yet myself. Seems to look like it's all actually in the right place now. So let's see, can I get the whole, I have to move my table. There. It seems to be all in the correct spot now. Good length, I think. I just took, in the back, I just took the lengthen and shorten line up to the bottom of the bodice. So I'm actually going to have to double check the measurements on that specifically. And I will write down all of the measurements that I have to remove from the pattern, and then I will be back with the pattern pieces and the directions of how to alter the pattern pieces and retry the fit. Okay, so supposedly the next step in this whole process is measuring how much you have basically taken off at your seam all the way around, and marking that onto the pattern. So I've never done this before, so bear with me on how I figure out how to actually do this. I've got my paper, and I've got my pen, and I've got my tape. That's not a tape measure, but my little plastic ruler here, because my measurements are not going to be big. So I am going to start at the shoulder seam. And I'm also going to mark the left and the right measurements, and then probably have like an average. Hopefully they're the same measurement, but most likely they're not going to be, and I will take the one that makes the most sense. So I guess let's see here how this is. I am actually, so you can see, you can see that I do have my seam basically right up where I have it pinned here. What I'm going to do is mark where I have that pinned, and then take the pin out and measure from this spot to the seam. And in fact, I'm going to mark it with this blue pen, and then take, so I can keep all of the pins in there as I mark it, and then take them all out and measure at that point. And that is going to be my last spot on this side, because that's where I stopped pinning. And that, according to the directions, that's where I will end up zeroing out, like coming to the actual factory made seam allowance, or seam line. Probably seam allowance is the better word here. And that is where I have my last pin there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the other sleeve here. That's where that ends. There. And then I do know on the back of my pieces that I have the lengthen and shorten line right up to the seam line on the pattern piece. So I will actually just do all the measurements for the back pieces on the pattern pieces. But I'm going to mark the waistband, and then I will have more accurate measurements in the front. front was quite a bit easier to do. Well, the whole skirt was quite a bit easier to do than the sleeves. Now we will unpin all of this. I will do that off camera, but I will come back to show how I measure it. I am going to do my best to keep this on camera for you to see as I measure this. I've decided to start with the waistline because that should be the easiest. It should be pretty close to even almost all the way across, except until I get to the side seams, because that's a little bit shorter. As you can see, there's a bit of an angle here. For the most part though, I'm just gonna measure at the seams because it's pretty straight up. So the seams should be pretty much the same. Okay, so this is the center front marked on the pattern here, and it's the center side seam. This bottom line down here, you can barely see, but it is where this is creased at. That's the lengthen and shorten line, so I will be cutting right above this on the pattern and moving it up to shorten it. So I'm gonna get this difference right here so I know how far to move it up. About 2 1/4 inches. My front and side front seam is 1 3/8 inches. And my side seams here is 1 1/8 inches. I'm also going to check this side front to see that I pulled it back up the same way. Let's see, that was my left. This would be, oops, that's my left. So this would be right, front, side, front. Got the seam here. And that's 1 1/4. So I lifted the left up an extra 1/8 of an inch. So we'll probably do the same thing here, but let's see what this right side seam says. Hi. 1 1/8. Okay, so the right side is the same as the left. So we will do 1 3/8 inches for the front center side fronts. Now back, for whatever reason, my lines are not quite in the same spot. So I am going to measure those to see for the back. Back. Side back. That is 7/8 of an inch. And then that's 3/4. Hopefully this is the same. 3/4. Depending on where that's at. Because that is not a straight one. Yeah, those are the same. So I have all my waist measurements here. So that's how much I will move the lengthen and shorten lines up on the pattern piece. I will show you how to do that. Let's get the measurements for the shoulders. This is the right shoulder. At the seam, we are at 1 1/8. And let's see, let's move forward. Okay, 1 1/8. And then it goes in further, but up here, it maintains about 1 1/8 in the front until, how do I mark? The last pin is actually, if I go out, straight out, yeah, from that seam, at the princess seam is where my last pin is. Okay, and then let's follow this to the back. That maintains about 1 inch. Well, kind of tapers like it's supposed to. Okay, my last pin was right here. So I'm actually going to measure from my seam to the last pin because it tapers on this side here. The last pin is about 3 1/4 inches. Let's check out the left shoulder. That is at 1 1/8 as well. And let's see. That makes sense if that's not right. And then that, for the most part, again, maintains 1 1/8 all the way down. And then the last pin is at the seam. It'll be the princess seam in the front, by the way. And let's see, let me get my purple one. And we will see here. There's my last seam mark. And this is at about, actually, 3 inches. And that is also wanting to taper down normally. So I think I'm going to go with 3 inches on the back instead of 3 1/4 because all of the other measurements are the same. So let me go ahead and take care of this, and I will get ready to do the adjustments on the paper pattern. Okay, so since the skirt adjustment is the easiest to do, we're going to go ahead and start with that. Let me make sure I can keep this all in. So the first thing I need to do is cut my pattern pieces at the lengthen and shorten lines. Actually, I'm going to do them one at a time because I don't want to get these pieces mixed up. So we're going to start with the back. That is the most basic, I think. So from this line, I need to measure up 3/4 inches, which is right here, actually. It's not all the way up because of the seam allowance. I'm trying to get that straight and then make sure that this is 7/8. It is. And now I'm going to tape it. Now that we have that, it's hard to tell here, but I do have now a tiny little bit of an uneven side there. So we have to true that. So from the corner here, and I'm going to go to the waist and I'm just going to draw a straight line. And I'll cut off that little bit, and that should still be the size of the back of the bodice piece. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other 4 skirt pieces. This is our front skirt piece that we'll be working on next. Okay, hopefully, I'm pretty sure you didn't miss much. My storage became full, but you should be good now. So this is the front piece. Our measurement for the center front is 2 1/4 inches. Relatively the same. Whoops, that's a little higher there. Okay. 1 3/8. Oh, yeah, nope. That's right. Yeah, that's pretty much the same all the way across. And this piece doesn't have to really be adjusted on the sides either, on the seam parts. This was pretty straight across. And the final skirt piece is our side front. Side front is 1 3/8 here. So 1 3/8. But it should be 1 1/8. So I need to okay, 1 1/8. 1 3/8. There we go. This seam here is good and we don't need to true that at all, but this one we do. There. Oh, sorry, Benny. Okay, that is the skirt adjustment. Now I need to do some measurements for the original pattern armholes and the actual sleeve. We use our flexible tape measure to do that. And we usually have it set up on its side. Let me go ahead and adjust you. I'll give you a better view here. So I'm going to measure the seam of the cap here. And we do this with our measuring tape set up on its side and along this way here. I don't have the best view for you. And right up along the edge here. And we kind of just walk along and measure it. Just roughly about 17 inches. So since this is a princess seam, we do have the seam allowance spot right there. So we cover that up to remove that measurement. And I am going to put a piece of tape here just to hold it in place while I measure it. Measure this one the same way I did the sleeve. Let's go ahead and get the back here also taped. But it's not the whole thing, because this sleeve actually goes from this round dot, you do the whole thing in here, all the way around to this small dot here. So that is what I have to measure. (16 1/8 inches). Okay, so that is actually almost the same. 16 1/8 and 17 inches. It's only a difference of 7/8 inches. Now I need to go ahead and add the adjustments onto the sleeves, onto the pattern from my sleeves, and see how that changes the measurement. Now for the back, I have this nice little fashion ruler here that we are going to use to have a nice shoulder taper here from the seam down to the 3-inch mark. But we don't want anything too severe. We want it to taper nicely in there. I'm not sure how to get the right angle on this. Plus it's just like that. I'm going to try to make it as smooth as possible. Maybe I just go all the way down to where the end of the sleeve is. That might have to be how I do that to get it the smoothest taper. I think that's how it's going to have to be. Go down to the natural curve there. I think it's going to have to be like that. And then this one we zero out it says. So let's turn it this way. And we can go from, okay, supposed to zero out at our last spot, and our last pin spot was the seam. Guess we'll give it a shot and see what that does. We'll see how that works. That will be my new seam lines for the back, front, and arm butts. Let's see. I can't just cut this because I do still have to have that area. Not exactly positive how this is going to work. I do have to make sure I still have my notches here. So thank goodness I am doing another mock-up. For the most part though, I'm just going to be trimming this down now that that's done. I do have to get a measurement here for this. Oh, that's at 14. Oh my goodness, they said it'd get bigger. That definitely did not get bigger. Definitely did not get bigger. Okay. We'll see how this all comes out, I guess. We will do this and see what kind of changes I might have to make before I add or change my sleeve pattern at this point, because I was not expecting that. So I will be back with my next fitting. Okay, so here is the second fitting of the dress. Yes, I did only put one sleeve on. It did not quite go together perfectly at the waist. My measurement on this seam is not quite right. So all I'm gonna have to do is increase the front side panel where it decrease the front side panel so that it will match the front panels correctly at this seam, and then we will still get more of that angle in the waistband. The petite adjustment worked out the way that it is supposed to, and turns out the top went together better this time than it did the first time. I'm not exactly sure what I did with the skirt pieces. They were going together backwards, and I am not sure why, but that's okay, it all works out. I did not adjust the sleeve at all, and it actually fits, and I think I'm gonna leave it. I could possibly spread it like what is it, slice and spread or whatever a little bit, but it really doesn't need it, and I think it looks good. I'm not gonna lift my arms up much more than this anyways, really, so I don't think I need to adjust the sleeve at all. So here is the fitted garment, well, fitted toile, and stay tuned for the video next week for the actual dress. I will give you a tutorial on how I'm cutting out the fabric, because I do have a special embroidered fabric for the top layer that I will be hopefully piecing so that it looks really nice and cohesive across the dress. And I will also be doing the tutorial step by step on how to put that dress together next week. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope maybe you learned something from my petite fitting as I was learning myself. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. If you want to see more of my videos and not miss them, hit that subscribe button. That really helps the channel. And if you would like the notifications every time I post a video, hit that notification bell and YouTube will let you know every single time I post a video. If you have anything that you want to comment or let me know what you're making, go ahead and leave a comment here. Again, thank you for watching Rebecca's Sewing Room. This is So Be It.